Can I please wash your car for food? The old woman's voice cracked like dry wood breaking. She stood barefoot on the hot pavement of a glittering parking lot where polished black cars lined up like soldiers. Her gray hair spilled out from under a torn scarf, her hands trembling as she clutched the hem of her faded dress. The billionaire, a tall man in a navy blue suit with silver cufflinks, had just stepped out of his sleek Rolls-Royce Phantom. The car gleamed under the afternoon sun, catching the eyes of everyone walking past. The old woman's plea cut through the noise of the city, louder than the honking horns and shouting pedestrians. The crowd stopped. Some sneered, some whispered, some simply walked away, pretending not to hear. But the billionaire turned. Slowly, his sharp eyes studied her. For a long moment, the world seemed to freeze. No one breathed. The old woman's words hung in the air. Then, without saying a word, he stretched out his hand. The silver keys to his car dangled from his fingers, sparkling like treasure, and in front of dozens of shocked witnesses, he handed the keys to the trembling old woman. The entire street gasped. Who was this billionaire? Why would he trust a stranger, an old woman begging for food? With a car worth more than most people's houses, what was about to happen? Before anyone could understand, the billionaire's lips curved into the faintest of smiles, and he said something that no one expected. But before I tell you what he said, let's go back to how it all began. Before we dive into today's powerful story, take a moment to tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your voice matters here. If you believe that kindness and compassion can change lives, give this video a like so more people can see it. And make sure to subscribe, because every day we share inspiring stories that remind us all of the power of love, empathy, and hope. The woman's name was Clara Johnson, though most people in her neighborhood just called her Grandma Clara. She had lived 70 years in the same part of the city, a place where the bricks were cracked, the lights flickered, and the corners smelled of fried food and gasoline. Life had never been easy for her, but she had always managed to make ends meet. Until now. Her husband had died nearly 2 decades ago, and her only son, Jerome, had passed away from illness a few years later. She was left to care for her granddaughter, a shy 11-year-old named Kiara, who had big brown eyes and a smile that could melt any heart. But smiles don't fill empty stomachs. Their tiny apartment was falling apart. The ceiling leaked when it rained. The stove hadn't worked in weeks. And the landlord, a short, sharp man named Mr. Calloway, had already slipped eviction notices under her door twice this month. Clara tried to stretch every dollar of her small pension check, but it was never enough. Prices at the grocery store rose higher every week, and by the middle of the month, the cupboards were bare. That's when Clara made a decision, a desperate one. If she could find odd jobs, even the kind no one else wanted, maybe she could scrape together enough for a bag of rice, some beans, maybe even a loaf of bread. So she walked, mile after mile, past the bus stops, past the shiny new stores, past the people who wouldn't even look at her. And eventually, she reached the part of town she had never dared to go before, the part where men in suits stepped out of limousines and women in designer dresses walked tiny dogs on diamond leashes. The gap between her and them was like a canyon. Yet hunger doesn't respect pride. Hunger doesn't wait for dignity. Hunger pushes you forward, even when your knees ache and your shoes are full of holes. And so Clara found herself in that parking lot, staring at a car that looked like it belonged in a museum. She had never seen anything like it. The paint shone like glass. The wheels glittered. And when the door opened and the man stepped out, her breath caught in her throat. She didn't even plan the words that came out. They slipped out of her like a prayer. Can I please wash your car for food? At first, the man, whose name was Nathaniel Sterling, thought he had misheard. He was a billionaire, the head of Sterling Enterprises, a name splashed across skyscrapers and investment firms. He lived in a world of boardrooms and private jets, not cracked voices and trembling hands. But when he looked down, he saw Clara's eyes, and they told him more than words ever could. Nathaniel's mind began to spin. He thought about the press, the cameras, the people staring. He thought about his own mother, long gone, who used to tell him, "Never forget the people who are invisible to the world." That was the moment he did something no one expected. He reached into his pocket, pulled out the silver keys to his Rolls Royce, and placed them gently into Clara's shaking hand. The crowd gasped. Clara nearly dropped them. Her heart hammered in her chest. She opened her mouth, but no words came. And that's when Nathaniel leaned closer and whispered something only she could hear. Clara's eyes widened. She froze, her mind racing, her stomach twisting with fear and confusion. What had the billionaire just told her? To understand that moment, we need to rewind to the morning of that very day. Clara had woken up in her tiny apartment to the sound of Kiara coughing. The little girl was wrapped in a thin blanket, her stomach rumbling. Clara had gone to the kitchen, opened the cupboard, and found only a single packet of instant noodles left. Her heart sank. She had no choice. She had to find food, somehow. So she tightened her scarf, slipped on her old shoes, kissed her granddaughter on the forehead, and whispered, "I'll be back with something to eat, baby. I promise." She had no idea that by the end of the day, she would be standing in front of one of the richest men in the city, holding the keys to a car worth more than she had ever seen in her life. But what she didn't know was that the moment those keys touched her palm, her life, and Kiara's life, would never be the same again. And just when Clara thought things couldn't get more shocking, the billionaire's words left her trembling, because what he whispered wasn't just about the car. It was something far bigger, something dangerous, something that could change everything. Clara's hand shook so badly, she thought the keys might slip through her fingers. They were heavier than she expected, cold and shining like silver ice. The crowd around her stayed frozen in silence. Some people had their phones out, recording every second. Others whispered with wide eyes, nudging each other in disbelief. Nathaniel Sterling leaned down close, so close that Clara could smell the faint scent of his cologne. Something sharp and expensive that she couldn't even name. His lips moved, but his words were for her ears only. "I'm not asking you to wash my car," he whispered. "I'm asking you to drive it." Clara's eyes grew wide. For a moment, she thought she had misheard. Drive it? Drive this giant beast of a car, polished like a diamond, worth more money than she had ever dreamed of holding in her entire life? She had never even sat in a car like this, let alone driven one. Her knees nearly buckled under the weight of the keys. "Sir, I can't," she stammered. But Nathaniel's expression didn't change. He gave her the faintest smile, almost unreadable, and said, "Trust me. Just take the wheel." The gasps from the crowd grew louder. A woman in a red dress shook her head in disbelief. A man in a baseball cap muttered, "Ain't no way. This has got to be a trick." Clara felt her throat close. Her stomach churned with fear and confusion. Why was he doing this? Why would a billionaire ask a poor, hungry old woman to take his car? And then, like a thunderclap breaking the silence, Nathaniel raised his voice, addressing the crowd. "She asked to wash my car for food," he said. His tone was calm, yet every word carried power, echoing through the parking lot. "But I believe her hunger deserves more than scraps. Today she'll drive." The crowd erupted. Some people laughed. Some clapped mockingly. Some even booed. "She's gonna wreck it," a teenager shouted. "This is crazy," someone else yelled. Clara's face burned with shame. All those eyes on her, judging her, expecting her to fail. Her heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear Nathaniel's voice anymore. Her fingers tightened around the keys. She wanted to drop them. She wanted to run. But then she remembered Kiara, her granddaughter's thin face, her cough in the morning, her whisper, "I'll be back with something to eat, baby. I promise." She couldn't turn back now. With trembling hands, Clara stepped toward the Rolls Royce. The crowd followed her with their eyes, buzzing like bees. The sun reflected off the car's hood, blinding her for a moment. She touched the door handle, and the smooth, cold metal made her shiver. Slowly, carefully, she pulled it open. The interior was like another world. Cream-colored leather seats, polished with panels, buttons and screens she didn't understand. The smell of new leather filled her nose. She had never sat anywhere so clean, so soft. For a second, she was afraid to even breathe, afraid she might dirty the air. "Go on," Nathaniel's voice urged from outside. "Start it." Clara's fingers trembled as she slid the key into place. The engine roared to life, deep and powerful, like a lion waking up. The vibration of it rattled her bones. She jumped, clutching the wheel as the crowd cheered and jeered. "Floor it, Grandma," someone shouted sarcastically. "She doesn't even know what she's doing," another sneered. Clara's hands clenched the steering wheel. Her palms were sweaty. She had driven before, years ago, when Jerome was alive and they still had their old beat-up Buick. But nothing like this. Nothing so big, so powerful, so terrifying. And just as she thought she might faint, Nathaniel leaned close again and whispered, "Don't be afraid. Sometimes life only changes when you take the driver's seat." Those words struck her like lightning. She didn't fully understand them, but something deep inside her stirred. Her foot pressed gently on the pedal. The car lurched forward. The crowd screamed and jumped back, parting like waves around a ship. Clara gasped, jerking the wheel. She almost slammed the brakes, but she stopped herself. The car rolled forward, steady now, the engine purring. Clara was driving a Billionaire's Rolls-Royce. The crowd couldn't believe their eyes. Phones flashed. Shouts rang out. Some laughed, others cursed. But Nathaniel watched with a strange calmness, his hands in his pockets, his eyes following Clara's every move. By the time Clara pulled the car around the lot and parked it carefully where it started, sweat dripped down her forehead. Her hands shook so much she could barely remove the keys. But when she finally stepped out, she was met with silence. No one clapped. No one laughed. They just stared. And then Nathaniel spoke again, his voice smooth as glass. "You see," he said to the crowd, "she didn't crash. She didn't fail. She proved herself." Clara's chest heaved. She wanted to speak, to explain that she wasn't trying to prove anything. She just needed food for her granddaughter. But the words stuck in her throat. Nathaniel turned to her, his gaze piercing. "Meet me tomorrow," he said. "Same place. Same time. Don't be late." And before she could ask why, he slipped into the passenger seat, motioned for his driver to take the wheel, and the Rolls-Royce glided away, leaving Clara standing in the lot with the keys, still clutched in her hand. The crowd buzzed with disbelief. What just happened? Why would he do that? Is she in trouble now? Clara didn't have answers. Her knees gave way, and she sank onto the curb, staring at the silver keys. She had no food, no money, no idea what Nathaniel wanted. But one thing was certain. Her life had just been thrown into something much bigger than she ever imagined. By evening, Clara trudged back to her apartment. Kiera ran to the door, her eyes hopeful. "Grandma, did you bring food?" Clara's chest tightened. She shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "Not today, baby. But tomorrow might be different." Kiera's face fell, but she hugged her grandmother anyway. "It's okay, Grandma. I believe you." Those words pierced Clara's heart. She had failed today. But tomorrow she had to make something happen. The next morning, Clara woke before sunrise. She washed her face, wrapped her scarf tightly, and left Kiera with a neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, promising she'd be back by evening. Her stomach was empty, but her heart pounded with a mix of fear and curiosity. When she reached the lot again, Nathaniel was already there. This time, the crowd wasn't as big, just a few curious onlookers who had heard the story. Nathaniel leaned against the Rolls-Royce, his arms crossed, his eyes sharp. "You came," he said simply. "Yes, sir," Clara whispered. "Good." He tossed her the keys. "Because today, we're not staying in the lot. Today, you're going to drive me." Clara froze. "Drive you? Where?" Nathaniel smiled faintly. "You'll find out." Her hand shook again as she climbed into the driver's seat. Nathaniel sat beside her, calm, collected, his eyes fixed ahead. The car rolled out of the lot, past streets Clara barely recognized, past towers of glass and steel. Every block made her more nervous. Every turn made her heart pound harder. Finally, Nathaniel spoke. "You wanted food," he said quietly. "But maybe what you really need is a chance. And today, I'll see if you're ready for it." Clara's grip on the wheel tightened. She didn't understand. A chance for what? Why her? But before she could ask, a black SUV swerved suddenly into their lane, cutting them off. The Rolls-Royce screeched as Clara slammed the brakes, her body jolting forward. Nathaniel's hand shot out, gripping the dashboard. The SUV's tinted window rolled down slowly. A man inside leaned out, his face hidden under a cap. His voice was low, threatening. "Sterling," the man growled. "You got something that belongs to us." Clara's blood ran cold. She wasn't just driving a billionaire anymore. She was sitting beside a man with enemies, dangerous enemies. And now, she was caught in the middle of it. The SUV's engine revved. Clara's heart hammered. Nathaniel's face remained calm, but his jaw tightened. He leaned slightly toward her and said, in a voice so soft she barely heard it over the roar of the engine, "Clara, whatever happens next, don't stop driving." Her fingers gripped the wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. She swallowed hard, her throat dry, and then the SUV pulled forward suddenly, blocking their path completely. The road was trapped. The crowd of onlookers back at the lot was gone. There was no one to help her now. Clara had never been so terrified in her life. Clara's heart raced so fast, she thought it might burst. Her hand shook violently on the steering wheel as the black SUV loomed in front of them, its engine growling like a beast ready to strike. The tinted window was still halfway down, and the man inside hadn't moved. He just sat there, watching, waiting. Nathaniel Sterling didn't flinch. His posture was relaxed, his voice calm as he leaned slightly closer to Clara. "Breathe," he said softly, "and remember what I told you. Don't stop driving." "Don't stop?" "Sir, there's a car right there." Clara's voice cracked. Her palms were slick with sweat, her chest tight. She hadn't been this scared since the night Jerome died in the hospital, and even then, she hadn't felt so trapped. The SUV's horn blared suddenly, long and sharp, making Clara jump in her seat. The man leaned out further now, his face partly visible. He wore a black cap pulled low, his jaw rough with stubble. His eyes, cold and unforgiving, locked directly onto Nathaniel. "You know why we're here," the man growled. His voice was like gravel, harsh and unyielding. "You've been dodging long enough. It ends today." Clara's mind spun. She didn't know what this was about, money, power, enemies, but every instinct told her she shouldn't be here. She was just a hungry grandmother who wanted food for her granddaughter. She wasn't supposed to be caught in the middle of whatever fight this billionaire was carrying, but now she was. Nathaniel's voice stayed calm, though his eyes narrowed. "You picked the wrong time. Step aside." The man smirked, shaking his head. "Not happening." He tapped the side of the SUV with his fist, and as if on cue, another vehicle, another black SUV, rolled up from behind, boxing them in. Clara gasped. Her grip tightened on the wheel. They were trapped. The crowd from earlier was gone. The street here was empty, quiet except for the rumble of engines and the pounding of her heart. "Nathaniel," Clara whispered shakily, We can't get out. We're stuck." Nathaniel leaned closer. His voice dropped low, sharp as a blade. "Listen to me. Turn the wheel left, floor the gas, and don't look back." Clara's eyes widened. "What? I can't." "You can," he said firmly, his gaze piercing hers. "You survived worse. You told me yesterday you walk miles for food. You can drive through this. Trust yourself." Clara's mind screamed at her. This was madness. She hadn't driven like this in years. But his words dug deep, pushing against her fear. The man in the SUV reached into his jacket. Clara's breath caught. She didn't know if it was a gun or something else, but she knew she couldn't wait to find out. Her foot slammed down on the gas. The Rolls-Royce roared forward, swerving left as Nathaniel ordered. Tires screeched, smoke rising from the pavement. The SUV tried to block them, but Clara's sudden move caught them off guard. The Rolls-Royce clipped the SUV's bumper, spinning it sideways as the crowd of pigeons scattered into the air. "Keep going," Nathaniel barked. Clara's hand shook violently as she gripped the wheel. The car shot forward, weaving through traffic now, horns blaring as other drivers swerved out of the way. Her vision blurred with panic, but her hands moved on instinct. Behind them, both black SUVs gave chase. Engines howled, tires screeched. Clara had never driven so fast in her life. Her heart pounded, her stomach twisted. Her breath came in short, panicked gasps. "Faster," Nathaniel said calmly, though his jaw was clenched. "You can do this." I can't," Clara sobbed. "Yes, you can. Look at the road, not them. Trust your hands." The Rolls-Royce tore through an intersection, narrowly missing a yellow cab. The cab driver cursed loudly as the black SUVs thundered behind. Clara's chest felt like it might burst. But somehow, she kept going. One wrong move, one slip, and it would be over. But something inside her shifted. For the first time in years, Clara felt her hands move with purpose. The wheel no longer felt foreign. Her body remembered the old Buick she once drove. The turns, the pedals, the rhythm. Muscle memory returned, guiding her. They shot down a side street. The SUV still behind, but struggling to keep up on the narrower road. Clara's eyes flicked between the rearview mirror and the road ahead. Sweat poured down her face. Finally, Nathaniel pointed to an alleyway. "There. Turn right now." Clara yanked the wheel. The Rolls-Royce swerved sharply into the alley, scraping its side against the brick wall. Sparks flew. Clara gasped but kept control. They sped through the alley, bursting out onto another street. The SUVs overshot, their brakes squealing as they missed a turn. For a moment, just a moment, silence. Clara's chest heaved. Her knuckles were white on the wheel. Nathaniel leaned back slowly, his expression unreadable. "You did it," he said quietly. Clara blinked rapidly, tears spilling down her cheeks. I thought I was going to kill us." "But you didn't," Nathaniel said firmly. "You kept going. Remember that." The adrenaline drained slowly as Clara pulled a car into a quieter street. Her hands still trembled, but the chase seemed behind them now. No more black SUVs in sight. Just ordinary cars, ordinary people. Life as usual. Clara pulled over, turning off the engine. Her chest heaved as she pressed her hands to her face, sobbing quietly. "I didn't ask for this. I just wanted food, just food for my Kiara." Nathaniel's gaze softened just for a second. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small black card. He held it out to her. "This isn't just about food anymore," he said. "This is about survival. Yours, your granddaughter's, and maybe mine too." Clara stared at the card, not understanding. What would he mean? Nathaniel's eyes flicked to the street behind them, scanning carefully. "Those men, they're not just after money. They're after something much bigger. And the fact that you were with me today," he paused, his jaw tightening, "means you're part of it now." Clara's breath caught in her throat. Her stomach twisted violently. She shook her head. No, I can't. I'm nobody. I don't know anything." Nathaniel's voice dropped, calm but serious. "You drove. You didn't freeze. You survived. That makes you more than nobody." Clara shook her head again, clutching the keys like a lifeline. She didn't want any part of this. She wanted her small, simple life back, even if it was full of struggle. At least she wasn't in danger. But deep inside, she knew it was too late. She was already tangled in something far bigger than herself. That night, Clara walked home with her mind spinning. Nathaniel had left her with money for groceries, more than she had seen in months. She bought rice, beans, bread, and even a small chicken. Kiara's face lit up when she saw the bags. "Grandma, you got so much food." Clara forced a smile, hugging her tightly. "Yes, baby, we'll eat tonight." For a while, everything felt normal again. They cooked together, laughing softly, the tiny apartment filling with warmth and the smell of food. For a moment, Clara could almost pretend the chase, the SUVs, the danger, none of it had happened. But as she lay awake that night, staring at the cracked ceiling, Nathaniel's words echoed in her mind. "You're part of it now." She didn't understand what it was, but she knew it wasn't over. The next morning, she got her answer. Clara stepped outside to sweep the front of the building when she noticed a car parked across the street, a black SUV. Its engine idled quietly, smoke curling from the exhaust. Her stomach dropped. A man sat in the driver's seat, sunglasses on, his face hidden. He didn't move. He didn't roll down the window. He just watched. Clara froze, the broom falling from her hands. They had found her. Clara's broom slipped from her hands and clattered onto cracked pavement. Her breath hitched in her throat as her eyes locked onto the black SUV across the street. The engine was running, its low growl sending vibrations through the air, and thin curls of exhaust smoke rose lazily into the morning sky. A man sat inside, his sunglasses reflecting the dull sunlight, his face unreadable. He didn't move. He didn't signal. He didn't even pretend to look away. He just sat there, watching. Clara's heart pounded. Her knees wobbled. Her first instinct was to run inside and lock the door, but another thought flashed in her mind. Kiera. Her granddaughter was still inside the apartment, sitting at the small table coloring with broken crayons. Clara couldn't let the girl see her panic. She bent slowly, picking up the broom with shaking hands. Her mind raced. Should she call the police? Should she call Nathaniel? Or should she pretend she hadn't seen the SUV at all? The man shifted slightly, reaching up to adjust his cap. Clara's stomach twisted violently. She forced herself to sweep the sidewalk, though her hands trembled so badly the broom scraped unevenly. Minutes passed. The SUV didn't leave. Finally, Clara turned and went back inside, her chest tight, her throat dry. She locked the door, double-bolted it, and drew the curtains. Kiera looked up, her eyes curious. "Grandma, what's wrong?" the girl asked softly. Clara forced a smile. "Nothing, baby. Just tired." But Kiera wasn't convinced. She tilted her head, studying her grandmother's face. "You're scared. I can tell." Clara's lips trembled. She wanted to tell the truth. She wanted to tell Kiera about the SUVs, the chase, the billionaire who had somehow tangled their lives into something dangerous. But how could she? Kiera was only 11. She deserved safety, not fear. So Clara knelt and hugged her tightly. "Don't worry, baby. Grandma's here. Nothing's going to hurt you." But deep inside, she wasn't sure that was true anymore. Hours crawled by. Clara peeked through the curtains every few minutes, her stomach clenching each time. The SUV was still there. Its engine never turned off. Whoever sat inside was waiting, watching. By noon, Clara couldn't take it anymore. She pulled out the black car Nathaniel had given her. His name was embossed in silver letters, Nathaniel Sterling. Beneath it, a number. Her hand shook as she dialed. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then his voice came through, calm and steady as ever. "Sterling." Clara swallowed hard. "It's me, Clara Johnson, the woman who drove your car." There was a pause. Then Nathaniel's voice dropped slightly. "What's wrong?" Clara's voice cracked. "They're here, outside my building. A black SUV. They've been sitting there all morning." Another pause. Then Nathaniel's tone turned sharp. "Stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone. I'll handle it." Clara gripped the phone tightly. "Please, I have my granddaughter here. She's just a little girl." "I said I'll handle it," Nathaniel repeated firmly. "Keep her safe until I arrive." The line went dead. Clara's chest heaved. She turned to Kara, who was watching with wide, worried eyes. Clara forced another smile, though her hands shook. "Everything's okay, baby. Grandma just called a friend." But in her heart, she prayed Nathaniel would keep his word. An hour later, the sound of an engine cut through the tense silence. Clara peeked through the curtain again. A sleek black Mercedes pulled up behind the SUV. Nathaniel stepped out, tall and sharp in another dark suit. He closed the door calmly, his expression unreadable. Clara's breath caught. He wasn't alone. 2 men stepped out from the Mercedes as well, broad-shouldered, dressed in dark coats. Their movements were precise, controlled, like men who had been trained for this kind of situation. The SUV's driver shifted but didn't get out. Nathaniel walked straight toward the vehicle, his stride slow but steady. He stopped at the driver's window, which rolled down halfway. Clara couldn't hear their words from inside, but she saw Nathaniel lean down, his jaw tight, his expression cold. The man in the SUV gestured with his hand, shaking his head. Nathaniel's eyes narrowed. He said something sharp, and the two men in coats stepped closer, their hands resting near their jackets as if ready to act. The SUV driver hesitated. Then, slowly, he put the car in gear. The vehicle pulled away from the curb, disappearing down the street. Clara collapsed into a chair by the window, her body trembling with relief. Nathaniel glanced once at her building, then spoke briefly to his men before walking toward the entrance. Clara's heart leapt. She scrambled to her feet, unlocking the door. When Nathaniel stepped inside, the room seemed to shrink around his presence. He scanned the small apartment quickly, his sharp eyes softening only when they landed on Kiera, who peeked shyly from behind her grandmother. "This is your granddaughter?" Nathaniel asked quietly. Clara nodded. "Kiera." Nathaniel gave a faint smile. "She's brave, just like you." Clara's throat tightened. "What do they want with you? Why are they following me now?" Nathaniel's gaze hardened. He pulled out a chair, sat down at the small table, and leaned forward. "Those men work for someone who thinks I owe him. Money, power, control. But it's not just business anymore. He's crossing lines. And now, because you were seen with me, they believe you matter too." Clara's stomach twisted. "But I don't matter. I'm nobody." Nathaniel shook his head firmly. "You matter now. They won't stop watching. Which means you're not safe here anymore." Clara's chest heaved. "Not safe? You mean I have to leave?" Nathaniel nodded slowly. "Pack a bag. Both of you. You're coming with me." The words hit Clara like thunder. Leave her home? Her neighborhood? Everything she'd ever known? She stared at him in disbelief. "I can't just leave," she whispered. "This is my home. I've lived here for decades." Nathaniel's voice remained calm but firm. "Clara, if you stay, they'll come back. And next time, they won't just sit in the car." Clara's knees weakened. She thought of Kiera. She thought of the SUV outside. She thought of the way the man's cold eyes had watched her. She swallowed hard and nodded. "All right, just give me a moment." She packed quickly, tossing clothes into a worn duffel bag. Kiera clutched her small backpack, slipping her favorite stuffed rabbit inside. Clara paused for one last look at the apartment. The cracked walls, the leaking ceiling, the broken stove. For all its flaws, it had been home. Now she was leaving it behind. The Mercedes waited outside. Nathaniel opened the door for Clara and Kiera himself. They slid inside, the leather seats soft beneath them. His men climbed into the front, scanning the street. As the car pulled away, Clara watched her building shrink in the distance, her heart aching. Nathaniel glanced at her. "I know this is hard, but sometimes the only way to protect what you love is to step into the unknown." Clara hugged Kiera close, her mind swirling with fear and uncertainty. The city blurred past. They crossed into neighborhoods Clara had never seen before. Tall towers, wide streets, shining lights. Kiera pressed her face to the window, whispering, "Wow." Clara's chest tightened. She didn't belong here. Finally, the car pulled into a gated estate. The iron gate swung open, revealing a massive mansion surrounded by perfectly trimmed hedges and a sparkling fountain. Clara's breath caught. It looked like something out of a dream or a movie. The car stopped at the front steps. Nathaniel stepped out first, then offered his hand to Clara. She hesitated, then took it, her callous fingers trembling against his smooth grip. Inside, the mansion was even more overwhelming. Marble floors, chandeliers, paintings larger than her entire apartment wall. Kiera's eyes widened as she spun in awe, but Clara felt small, out of place, like a shadow in a world of light. Nathaniel led them to a guest wing, opening the door to a room bigger than Clara's whole apartment. A king-size bed, a window overlooking the fountain, a bathroom lined with gold fixtures. "This will be yours for now," Nathaniel said simply. "Rest. You'll need it." Clara stared at him, her voice trembling. "Why are you doing this? Why me?" Nathaniel's expression darkened. His eyes flicked away, as if he was hiding something. "Because sometimes the people we least expect are the ones fate puts in our path." And I have a feeling you're here for a reason. Clara didn't understand, but before she could ask, a loud crash echoed through the mansion. The windows rattled. Shouts filled the air. Nathaniel's men rushed past the door, their voices sharp. They found us. Clara froze, clutching Kiara tightly as fear surged through her veins. The mansion wasn't safe after all. The crash reverberated through the mansion like thunder, rattling the chandeliers and sending shards of glass raining across the polished marble floors. Clara flinched, pulling Kiara into her arms and pressing the girl's face into her chest. Shouts echoed down the hallway. Heavy boots pounded against the tile. Nathaniel was already moving, his voice sharp and commanding. "Stay here," he barked. "Don't open this door for anyone but me." Clara's eyes widened. "What's happening?" But he was gone before she could finish, the door slamming shut behind him. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it might burst. She held Kiara tighter, whispering, "It's okay, baby, it's okay," though her own voice shook with terror. Outside, chaos erupted. The deep roar of engines, the crack of gunfire, the shouts of Nathaniel's men. Clara's chest tightened until every breath was a battle. She crouched low in the room, pulling Kiara with her into the corner between the bed and the wall. The girl clutched her stuffed rabbit, her knuckles white. "Grandma," Kiara whispered, "are they coming for us?" Clara pressed her lips to the girl's forehead, fighting to keep her voice steady. "Not if we stay quiet. We're safe here. We have to be." But she wasn't sure anymore. Meanwhile, Nathaniel strode down the marble corridor, his eyes cold and calculating. His two men, Cain and Victor, flanked him with weapons drawn. From perimeter breached, Cain reported sharply, "At least 3 vehicles, possibly more." Victor added, "They're armed, military grade. This isn't a scare tactic. They came to send a message." Nathaniel's jaw clenched. His empire had been built on precision and control. He anticipated threats before they arrived, neutralized enemies before they could strike. But this was bolder than anything before. "Then we make sure they regret it," Nathaniel said flatly. The men nodded. As they turned the corner, the front entrance came into view. The massive oak doors had been blown inward, splintered wood and twisted iron scattered across the floor. Figures in black tactical gear stormed through the opening, their rifles raised. Nathaniel didn't flinch. He didn't hesitate. He lifted his hand, signaling his men. "Now!" Gunfire erupted. Back in the guest room, Clara squeezed her eyes shut as the sharp cracks echoed through the mansion. She had never heard real gunfire before. Not like this. Not this close. Each shot was a violent reminder that danger was only rooms away. She whispered a prayer under her breath. Not for herself, but for Kiara. The child deserved safety, not this nightmare. Suddenly, footsteps pounded down the hall. Clara's breath caught. She pulled Kiara tighter, her body trembling. The steps drew closer, closer, until they stopped right outside the door. Silence. Then, the doorknob rattled. Clara's blood turned to ice. She remembered Nathaniel's words. "Don't open this door for anyone but me." The knob twisted again, harder this time. "Grandma," Kiara whispered. Clara pressed a finger to her lips, urging silence. A voice came from the other side, low, cold, unfamiliar. "Open the door." Clara's hand shook violently. She didn't move. "Open it," the voice repeated, harder now. Kiara whimpered softly, and Clara covered the girl's mouth gently, tears burning her eyes. Then boom, the door shuddered as something heavy slammed against it. Once, twice, a third time, the wood cracked. Clara's heart pounded. She had no weapon, no way to defend herself. She could only pray Nathaniel would return in time. Downstairs, Nathaniel fired with lethal precision. Every shot found its mark. His men moved like shadows, covering angles, driving the attackers back step by step. But more kept coming. Victor ducked behind a column, shouting, "They're not here to win. They're here to keep us distracted." Nathaniel froze for half a second as the realization struck. "Clara," he muttered. He turned and sprinted down the hall, his chest burning, his mind racing. The guest room door finally gave way. splintering inward. A man in black tactical gear stepped through, rifle raised. His eyes locked instantly onto Clara, and Kiera huddled in the corner. "Move!" he barked. Clara's whole body shook, but she stood, shielding Kiera with her own body. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "She's just a child." The man didn't hesitate. He lunged forward. And then, a single gunshot tore through the air. The attacker dropped instantly, his rifle clattering to the floor. Clara gasped. Standing in the doorway, gun still smoking, was Nathaniel. His eyes burned with fire, his chest rising and falling with controlled fury. "Are you hurt?" he demanded. Clara shook her head, tears streaking her face. "No, but—" "Then we move. Now." He pulled her toward the door, his hand firm but steady. Kiera clung to Clara's other hand, her stuffed rabbit dangling. "Where are we going?" Clara asked, her voice trembling. "Somewhere safer," Nathaniel said. His tone left no room for argument. They wound through narrow hallways Clara had never seen before, passing doors that led deeper into the mansion. At last, Nathaniel stopped at a hidden panel near the library. He pressed his palm against the scanner, and the wall slid open silently, revealing a dim staircase descending underground. "Go!" he urged. Clara hesitated. "What is this?" Nathaniel's eyes flicked toward the sound of gunfire still raging upstairs. A contingency. For nights like this. Clara swallowed hard and guided Kiera down the stairs. The passage was cold and narrow, the walls concrete, the air damp. Nathaniel followed close behind, sealing the door once they reached the bottom. The space opened into an underground bunker. Steel walls, reinforced doors, rows of monitors flickering with camera feeds of the mansion above. Kiera clutched Clara's arm. "Grandma, this is like a spy movie." Clara forced a weak smile. "Yeah, baby, just like that." Nathaniel moved quickly to the control panel, typing commands, switching screens. Clara stood frozen, watching his face harden. Finally, he turned to her. "Listen to me carefully. This isn't random. This is Victor Hale." Clara frowned. "Who?" Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "A man who once stood at my side. A partner. We built an empire together. Until he decided it wasn't enough. He wanted everything. And now he'll burn down anyone who stands in his way." Clara's breath caught. "But why me? Why us?" Nathaniel's gaze softened for a moment. "Because you matter to me now. And Hale knows that." Clara's heart stuttered. She wanted to protest, to deny it, to claim she was nothing more than a woman who had once washed cars for survival. But the words stuck in her throat. Above them, the monitors showed attackers swarming the mansion. Kane and Victor fought fiercely, but they were outnumbered. Nathaniel's voice was low but steady. "If we stay here, Hale will find us eventually. The only way out is to confront him directly." Clara's stomach twisted. "You mean face him?" Nathaniel nodded grimly. "Face him or lose everything." The night dragged on, filled with the sounds of distant gunfire and the constant flicker of surveillance screens. Clara sat with Kiera in her arms, exhaustion pressing heavy on her bones, fear gnawing at her heart. For the first time in years, she wasn't just fighting hunger or bills or the slow decay of poverty. She was fighting for survival against forces far darker than she'd ever known. And deep inside, she realized something terrifying. This was only the beginning. The bunker trembled as another explosion rocked the mansion above. Dust sifted down from the concrete ceiling, and one of the monitors flickered before stabilizing again. Clara clutched Kiera tighter, her arms aching but unwilling to let go. Every boom, every distant shout, rattled through her chest like a drum. Kiera's small voice broke the silence. "Grandma, are they going to find us?" Clara swallowed hard, forcing calm she didn't feel. "No, baby, we're safe down here. Mr. Sterling has us all under control." But her own eyes betrayed her doubt, darting to Nathaniel at the control station. His jaw was set, his fingers flying over the keyboard as he switched cameras, rerouted power, and sent commands into hidden systems. The glow of the screens reflected in his eyes, cold and calculating. Victor paced behind him, muttering under his breath. Kane leaned against the wall, reloading his weapon, his hand steady despite the chaos above. Then Nathaniel spoke. "They're too far in." His voice was low, almost to himself. They knew the layout. They knew where to breach. Kane looked up sharply. "You're saying we've got a rat?" Nathaniel didn't answer. His silence was answer enough. Clara's stomach dropped. A traitor. That word carried a weight she had only read about in books. And now, in this mansion, it meant the difference between survival and death. The monitors showed black-clad figures spreading through the halls like shadows. Some were moving with military precision, sweeping rooms, securing stairwells. Others carried small devices, signal jammers, explosives, tools for breaking defenses. Victor swore under his breath. They're moving faster than expected. At this rate, they'll hit the east wing in 10 minutes. Nathaniel's fingers stilled. He leaned back, eyes narrowing as he studied the feeds. "They're not just attacking," he murmured. "They're hunting. This isn't a raid, it's a message." Clara shivered. "A message? For who?" Nathaniel's gaze flicked to her, then softened just slightly. "For me. They want me to know Hale can reach into my home, into my life." He leaned forward again, voice hardening. "But he won't touch what matters." Clara blinked. She wanted to ask what he meant, but the words lodged in her throat. The gunfire upstairs quieted for a moment, replaced by muffled voices and the occasional crash of overturned furniture. Nathaniel used the lull to speak. His tone was even, but beneath it ran an undercurrent of steel. "Clara, you need to understand something. This didn't start yesterday. Hale and I, we were brothers once. Not by blood, but by bond. We built Sterling Enterprises from nothing, brick by brick, dollar by dollar. But greed is poison. He wanted more. He wanted control. And when I wouldn't hand it over, he tried to take it." Clara listened, torn between disbelief and fear. She had grown up with men fighting over scraps in alleyways, neighbors stealing for survival. But this, two billionaires tearing each other apart with armies of men, it was another world entirely. "What about the law?" she whispered. "The police? Can't they stop him?" Nathaniel gave a humorless laugh. "The law? Hale bought the law years ago. Judges, officers, politicians. They bow to him when the cameras aren't looking." Clara's stomach nodded. She had seen corruption before, in welfare offices, in city officials turning a blind eye to suffering. But this level, this scale, it was suffocating. Nathaniel leaned closer, his eyes locking on hers. "That's why you and Kiera must listen carefully. From this moment on, nothing in your life is the same. Every step you take, every face you trust, it all matters. Because Hale will use anything, anyone to get to me. And now, by saving you, I've made you his target too." Clara's breath caught. Her hands tightened around Kiera until the girl winced. "But I didn't ask for this." "No one asks," Nathaniel said quietly. "But we either fight or we fall." Kiera tugged at Clara's sleeve. "Grandma, I'm scared." Clara kissed her forehead, whispering, "I know, baby. I'm scared too." But then she looked at Nathaniel, and for a moment, something flickered inside her. Strength, maybe, or defiance. She had lived her whole life on the edge of survival. She had buried her son, walked miles for food, faced hunger and humiliation. Maybe she wasn't ready for guns and billionaires, but fear itself was no stranger. She straightened her back, meeting Nathaniel's gaze. "Then teach me how to fight." The room went silent. Kane raised an eyebrow. Victor paused mid-step. Nathaniel's expression didn't change, but his eyes studied her with new intensity. "You may get your chance sooner than you think," he said finally. As if on cue, the monitors flared with movement. A cluster of Hale's men descended into the basement level, rifles sweeping side to side. Victor cursed. They found the lower access tunnels. Nathaniel's hands flew over the console. He activated steel bulkheads, sealing corridors one by one. But for every door that slammed shut, the men used explosives to blow another open. The vibration shook the bunker, rattling the lights overhead. Clara clutched Kiera again, whispering frantic prayers. Nathaniel stood, slipping a small pistol from his jacket. He placed it carefully on the table in front of Clara. Her eyes widened. I don't know how to. You don't need to know, he said sharply. You just need to pull the trigger if anyone gets through that door. Understand? Her hands trembled as she picked it up. It felt heavy, alien in her grasp. But she nodded. Nathaniel's voice softened slightly. You're stronger than you believe. The first explosion hit closer. Dust rained down, Kiera whimpered, and alarms blared to the bunker. Victor shouted, They'll breach in 5 minutes. Nathaniel drew his weapon, his calm unbroken. Then we end this. Before Clara could speak, a piercing beep cut through the chaos. One of the monitors flickered, then shifted to static. Slowly, an image replaced it. Not from Nathaniel's cameras, but from an outside feed hijacked into the system. A face appeared on the screen. Clara froze. The man was tall, with sharp cheekbones and steel-gray eyes. His hair was slicked back, his suit immaculate despite the battlefield chaos. He leaned forward, smiling coldly at the camera. Hello, old friend, the man said smoothly. Did you really think you could hide from me in your own home? Nathaniel's eyes darkened. Hale! Victor Hale's smile widened. It's been a long time, Sterling. Too long. And now here we are, your empire crumbling, your fortress breached, your secrets laid bare. His gaze shifted suddenly, locking directly onto Clara through the screen. And who? Hale said slowly, is this the woman you risked it all for? Clara's breath caught. She felt Hale's eyes pierce straight through her, cold and merciless. Leave her out of this, Nathaniel snapped. Hale chuckled. Oh no, Nathaniel. You don't get to make demands. You made her part of the game the moment you let her touch your keys. Clara's blood ran cold. Hale leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper that still filled the room. And I never lose. The screen went black. At that exact moment, the bunker door thundered with an explosion, the steel bending inward. Kiera screamed. Clara raised a pistol with trembling hands, and Nathaniel stepped forward, his voice steady. Stay behind me. The bunker filled with smoke as the door gave way. The blast ripped through the bunker door, shaking the underground chamber like an earthquake. A deafening roar of metal against metal echoed, and smoke billowed into the room, choking and blinding. Clara's ears rang. She clutched Kiera to her chest with one arm, the pistol trembling in her other hand. The little girl buried her face in her grandmother's blouse, crying into the fabric. Through the haze, dark silhouettes appeared in the doorway. 3 men in black tactical gear, rifles raised, their visors glinting in the bunker's harsh fluorescent light. Down on the ground, one barked. His voice was rough, amplified by the mask. Nathaniel didn't flinch. He stepped forward, raising his gun, his tone like steel. You first. He fired. The first man dropped instantly, his weapon clattering against the floor. The other 2 rushed forward, spraying bullets. Clara screamed, ducking low, shielding Kiera with her own body as sparks exploded from the concrete walls. Kane and Victor returned fire, their movements sharp and practiced. The bunker erupted into chaos. Gunfire cracking, smoke thickening, alarms shrieking in protest. One of the masked men broke through the haze, charging straight at Clara. Her heart stopped. His shadow loomed over her, his rifle aimed. Grandma! Kiera cried. Clara's body moved before her mind could think. She raised a pistol, her hands trembling so violently she almost dropped it. She squeezed her eyes shut and pulled the trigger. The gun's recoil jolted through her arms. A deafening bang. When she opened her eyes, the man was on the floor, his weapon sliding across the concrete. Clara froze. Her whole body shook, her breath ragged, her hands refusing to let go of the gun even though her knuckles burned white. You did it, Nathaniel said sharply, his voice cutting through the chaos. Now move. The firefight lasted only minutes, though it felt like an eternity. Nathaniel's men cleared the last attacker, dragging his body away from the door. Silence fell again, broken only by the crackle of the bunker alarms. Clara's chest heaved. Her legs gave way, and she collapsed onto the cold floor, Kiera clinging to her side. I shot someone, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Her eyes were wide, unblinking, staring at her trembling hands. Lord, Nathaniel crouched in front of her, gripping her wrist firmly but not unkindly. You save your granddaughter. You save yourself. That's nothing to regret. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but she nodded, too shaken to argue. Kiera tugged her sleeve, whispering, Grandma, you were so brave. Clara pulled the girl into her arms, her heart breaking. Brave. That wasn't how it felt. It felt like the world had forced her into a corner, and she had done the only thing left to do. Nathaniel stood, his face grim. We can't stay here. Hale won't stop until he razes this entire place to the ground. We need to move now. Kane gestured to the far wall. Emergency escape tunnels. They'll lead us 2 miles east. Victor frowned. Assuming Hale hasn't already mapped them. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. Then we find out the hard way. The escape tunnel was narrow and damp, its concrete walls lined with rusting pipes. The group moved in single file. Kane in front, Clara and Kiera in the middle, Nathaniel close behind, Victor bringing up the rear. Every step echoed, the sound amplifying in the hollow passage. Clara's breathing was shallow, her nerves still raw for what she had done. Kiera held her hand tightly, her stuffed rabbit tucked under her arm, eyes wide in the dim light. After what felt like forever, Kane raised a fist, signaling a stop. He crouched low, inspecting a faint red glow ahead. Tripwire, he muttered. They've been here. Clara's stomach dropped. Hale's men had found the tunnels too. Nathaniel studied the device, then glanced at Clara. Stay close. Don't let go of Kiera, no matter what. Clara nodded quickly, her grip tightening on the little girl's hand until her fingers ached. Kane disabled the trap, and they pressed on. The tunnel branched, and Nathaniel chose the left, his instincts guiding them through the maze. Finally, a faint sliver of moonlight appeared ahead, the exit. Clara's heart lifted for the first time in hours. Fresh air, freedom. But as they neared the opening, a shadow shifted in the brush outside. Kane froze, raising his hand again. We got company. Voices filtered down, low, guttural, men laughing quietly. Armed men waiting outside. Nathaniel's expression hardened. We're walking into an ambush. Clara's blood ran cold. Trapped underground with killers behind them and more waiting above. What do we do? She whispered. Nathaniel's gaze locked on her. We don't stop moving. No matter what happens, you keep running. Do you understand? Clara swallowed hard. No buts. His voice was sharp, final. You run, Clara. You run and don't look back. The group burst from the tunnel, like arrows loose from a bow. Kane and Victor opened fire instantly, cutting to the first line of Hale's men. Clara clutched Kiera's hand, sprinting across the field, the cool night air burning her lungs. Bullets tore through the grass around them. Shouts filled the night. Grandma! Kiera cried, stumbling. Clara yanked her forward, her heart hammering. Don't stop, baby. Don't stop. Behind them, Nathaniel moved like a phantom, his shots precise, his presence a wall between Clara and the men hunting them. They reached the tree line, ducking into the cover of the forest. The night swallowed them, branches whipping their faces, roots clawing at their feet. Clara's legs burned, her breath came in ragged gasps, but she refused to let go of Kiera's hand. At last, Kane signaled a halt. They crouched in the shadows, the sounds of pursuit echoing faintly in the distance. We bought some time, Victor muttered, but not much. Clara collapsed to her knees, holding Kiera close. The girl was shaking, her small body trembling against her grandmother's. Nathaniel crouched beside them, his voice low but firm. You did well, both of you. Clara's chest heaved. This isn't my world, she whispered. I'm just a grandmother. I shouldn't be here. Nathaniel's gaze softened. And yet, here you are, alive, stronger than most men I've fought beside. Clara shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I can't. Yes, you can. His voice was steady, unwavering. Because if you don't, Hale wins. And I won't allow that. The forest was quiet for a moment, the night air heavy with tension. Then a sound broke the silence. A phone buzzed. Nathaniel stiffened, pulling a small secure device from his pocket. The screen lit up with a single word. Hale. He answered, his tone icy. You've gone too far. Hale's voice oozed through the speaker, smooth and mocking. On the contrary, old friend, I've only just begun. You can run into the woods, hide in your holes, but it won't change a thing. I own this city, and soon I'll own everything you pretend to protect. His tone shifted, colder, more deliberate. Tell the grandmother she has one chance. Bring me Kiera, and I let her walk away alive. Clara's breath hitched. Her arms tightened around her granddaughter, fury and fear battling in her chest. Nathaniel's jaw clenched. You'll never touch her. Hale chuckled. Then watch how quickly everything you care for burns. The line went dead. Silence hung in the forest, heavy and suffocating. Clara clutched Kiera tighter, her heart hammering. Hale's words rang in her ears, chilling her to the bone. He wanted her granddaughter, the forest pressing around them, silent except a faint rustle of wind through the branches. Hale's voice still echoed in Clara's ears, each word a blade carving deeper into her chest. Bring me Kiera, and I let her walk away alive. Clara held her granddaughter tightly, the little girl's face buried in her neck. She could feel Kiera's small heartbeat hammering, fast and terrified, matching her own. Nathaniel's expression was unreadable, but his jaw flexed, the muscles tight as stone. He slipped the phone back into his pocket, his gaze fixed on the ground for a long moment before he finally spoke. He knows too much, Nathaniel said quietly. This isn't random. Hale's mapped everything, my network, my assets, my allies, and now you. His eyes shifted to Clara, sharp and searching. He's targeting Kiera because he knows it's the one thing you won't sacrifice. He's betting your love will break us. Clara's hands trembled against the child's back. He won't touch her, she whispered, her voice cracking. I won't let him. I'll die first. Nathaniel crouched down to her level, his voice steady but firm. You may have to fight harder than you ever thought possible. Hale isn't bluffing. He'll burn everything if it means getting what he wants. Victor paced nearby, frustration rolling off him. We can't keep dragging them through gunfights and forests. They're civilians, Nathaniel. That girl, she's a child. Hale's playing psychological warfare, and he's winning. Kane cut him a sharp look. So, what? You suggest we hand the kid over? Victor spun on him. Don't twist my words. But we need to face facts. Hale won't stop. And if Clara cracks under pressure, we'll all pay the price. Clara's head shot up, her voice trembling with fury. I will never give him my granddaughter. Never. Don't you dare stand there and question me. The air went thick with tension. Victor's jaw worked, but he said nothing more. Nathaniel broke the silence, his tone calm but edged with steel. Enough. Hale wants us fractured. We don't give him that satisfaction. We stick together. And we move. He stood, scanning the dense forest around them. We can't stay here. He'll track the tunnel exit, and his men will sweep these woods before dawn. We head north toward the river. There's a safe house there. Kane nodded. 2, maybe 3 hours on foot. Nathaniel's gaze flicked to Clara. Can you manage that? Clara straightened, her voice soft but firm. If it keeps Kiera safe, I can manage anything. The trek through the forest was brutal. Branches clawed at their clothes, roots twisted beneath their feet, and every sound seemed magnified in the silence of the night. Clara kept Kiera close, one hand gripping the child's, the other holding the pistol Nathaniel had pressed into her palm. She hated the weight of it, but she refused to let go. Kiera's small voice finally broke the silence. Grandma, why does that bad man want me? Clara's heart clenched. She slowed, kneeling so she could meet her granddaughter's eyes. The girl's face was pale in the moonlight, her dark curls sticking to her forehead with sweat. Clara forced a smile she didn't feel. Because he's mean, baby. He wants to scare us. But you don't need to worry, all right? I won't let him touch you. Not ever. Kiera's eyes shimmer with tears. But what if he finds us? Clara brushed a strand of hair from her face, her voice trembling but resolute. Then I'll stand in front of you. And if I fall, Nathaniel will stand. And if Nathaniel falls, Cain and Victor will stand. You are never alone, Kiera. We are a wall, and we will never let him through. The child sniffled, nodding slowly, and hugged her grandmother tightly. Clara closed her eyes, holding her, whispering a prayer she wasn't sure she believed anymore. Hours passed. The forest grew darker, denser, until even the moonlight was swallowed by the canopy. Cain navigated with quiet confidence, guiding them along hidden deer trails. Nathaniel remained alert, scanning the shadows for movement. Victor's tension was palpable, his head snapping at every sound. Clara wondered if it was mistrust of her or fear of what lay ahead. Her body ached, every muscle screaming, but she pushed forward. For Kiera. Always for Kiera. At last, Cain raised a hand. There, the river. The group emerged from the trees onto a rocky bank. The water shimmered faintly in the moonlight, rushing past with steady force. On the far side, dense forest stretched again, but Cain pointed downstream. Safe house is 2 miles that way, but we'll need to cross. Clara's stomach dropped. The current was fast, the water black and uninviting. How? Rope bridge 1/2 mile down. Cain replied, hidden in the brush. Sturdy enough. They started along the bank, their footsteps crunching against stone. Clara kept Kiera close, her eyes darting constantly to the dark trees looming behind them. Halfway to the bridge, Nathaniel suddenly froze. He lifted a hand, signaling silence. The group halted instantly. Clara's heart raced. She strained her ears, listening. At first, she heard nothing but the rush of water. Then, snap, a twig, breaking somewhere behind them. Victor swore under his breath. They found us. Shadows emerged from the trees. Figures in dark gear, rifles raised, their visors glinting in the faint light. Dozens of them. Clara's blood turned to ice. Hale's men. They were surrounded. Nathaniel raised his gun, his voice low but steady. Clara, listen to me. Take Kiera and run to that bridge. Don't stop. Don't look back. Clara's breath hitched. But... No buts, Nathaniel snapped, his eyes locked on hers with fierce intensity. You run. That's how you win. Cain chambered around. Victor muttered a curse. The air was seconds away from exploding. Clara grabbed Kiera's hand, her body trembling. The child's eyes were wide with terror. Then, from the darkness ahead, a new voice rang out. Smooth, cold. Well, the voice drawled. The grandmother, the child, and the great Nathaniel himself. What a reunion. The figures parted, and a tall man stepped forward, dressed in black, his features sharp, his smile cruel. Hale, he had come himself. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Hale stepped forward, his boots crunching against the gravel of the riverbank. His presence filled the night, like a storm cloud, heavy and suffocating. The men at his back fanned out in a wide semicircle, rifles raised, their laser sights cutting thin red lines through the trees. Nathaniel stood his ground, his gun steady, but Clara could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw clenched. Cain shifted slightly, checking their flank, while Victor muttered something under his breath, his finger tight on the trigger. Clara's arms locked around Kiera, shielding her behind her body. The girl clung to her blouse, trembling so violently Clara feared she might faint. Hale's gaze drifted slowly across the group before landing on Clara. He smiled, thin and sharp. So this is the famous grandmother I've heard so much about. Clara's throat tightened. She wanted to speak, to shout, but no sound came. Hale tilted his head, studying her. You've done well, keeping her alive this long. Most would have crumbled, but here you are, standing, protecting her with a fierceness I can almost admire. His eyes glinted as he leaned forward slightly. Almost. Nathaniel's voice cut through the tension, low and dangerous. Leave them out of this. Hale, this is between you and me. Hale chuckled softly, the sound chilling. That's where you're wrong, old friend. It's always been about the people we love. You protect them, I take them. That's the game. And right now, the prize is standing behind that trembling grandmother of yours. Kiera whimpered. Clara tightened her arms, her fury boiling over her fear. You'll not touch her. Hale's smile widened. And what will you do, grandmother? Pray me away? Shoot another one of my men with those shaking hands. Clara's face burned. She remembered the man she had shot in the bunker, the weight of the gun jerking in her palm. Her body shook, but she didn't move aside. Nathaniel stepped closer, his gun unwavering. You'll never win this. Hale, not with her, not with the girl. Hale's eyes narrowed, his tone sharpening. You think you still control the board, Nathaniel, but you're out of time, out of allies, out of luck. He gestured with a flick of his hand. Your empire's ashes. Your loyal men are either dead or bought. And here you are, crawling through the woods with a pensioner and a child. You're finished. Kane bristled. Say the word, boss. I'll drop him right now. Hale laughed, spreading his arms. Go ahead, shoot me. Then my men paint the river red with your blood. You'll all be corpses before my body hits the ground. The red dots from his soldiers' rifles shifted slightly, dancing over their chests. Clara swallowed hard. She felt Kiera's tears soak into her blouse, the child's tiny hands gripping her desperately. Hale's voice softened, almost coaxing. There's a way out, Clara. Her head snapped up, her eyes narrowing. He stepped closer, his tone oily. Hand me the girl. That's all. Do that and you walk away. No more running. No more hiding. You can go back to your quiet little life and never see me again. Clara's stomach churned. She wanted to spit in his face, but fear clawed at her chest. His words dripped poison into her ears, tempting, twisting. For one horrible second, she imagined it. Kiera in his arms, Clara walking away alive, free from this nightmare. Her hand shook. Hale saw it. His smile grew. You're thinking about it. Don't deny it. You've already given up so much. Your pride, your peace, your innocence. What's one more sacrifice? Clara's heart hammered, and for the briefest moment, doubt flickered in her eyes. Don't listen to him. Nathaniel snapped, his voice like thunder. He turned to her, fierce and commanding. He feeds on fear. That's all he has. Look at me, Clara. Look at me. Her eyes darted to him, locking on his. His gaze was unbreakable, steady as stone. You are stronger than this, Nathaniel said firmly. You've already proven it. Hale has nothing. Nothing but lies. Don't give him what he wants. Kiera whispered, her voice trembling. Grandma, don't let me go. Clara's vision blurred with tears. She tightened her grip around the child, holding her close, her voice breaking but loud and clear. You can kill me, Hale, but you will never touch her. For the first time, Hale's smile faltered. His eyes hardened. So be it. He raised his hand. In an instant, the night exploded. Gunfire erupted, deafening, lighting up the trees with flashes of red and white. Nathaniel shoved Clara and Kiera behind a fallen log, barking orders. Kane and Victor fired back, their shots cracking through the chaos. Bullets tore into the earth around them, sending dirt spraying into the air. Clara shielded Kiera with her body, the girl screaming into her chest. Nathaniel slid beside them, reloading quickly. Stay down, he barked, his eyes sharp, his movements precise. Clara's mind raced, her body trembling. The world had narrowed to noise and terror, and the weight of her granddaughter in her arms. Hale's voice rang through the gunfire, dark and furious. You can't run forever, Nathaniel. You'll bleed out here, and when you do, the girl is mine. Clara pressed her forehead to Kiera's hair, whispering fiercely. No, baby. No, he won't. Not while I'm alive. The gunfight raged on, relentless. Nathaniel and his men moved with precision, but they were outnumbered, pinned down against the riverbank. Clara glanced up, her eyes catching the rope bridge Kane had mentioned. It swayed faintly in the distance, hidden in the brush. A possible escape. But to reach it, they had to break through Hale's men. The odds were impossible. Still, Clara felt something shift inside her. The trembling grandmother who begged to wash cars for food was gone. In her place stood a woman forged by fear, love, and desperation. She had no choice but to fight. She tightened her grip on the pistol Nathaniel had given her. Her hand still shook, but her eyes burned with resolve. She leaned toward Nathaniel, shouting over the chaos. "The bridge! It's our way out." He followed her gaze, his expression hardening as he saw what she meant. For a moment, their eyes locked, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Then Nathaniel gave a single, sharp nod. "On my mark, we run." Clara's heart pounded. Her stomach twisted. She pulled Kiera close, whispering, "Hold on tight, baby. We're gonna run." The gunfire intensified, the night alive with fury. Hale shouted orders, his men pressing forward. Nathaniel raised his voice above the storm. "Now!" Clara surged to her feet, dragging Kiera with her, sprinting toward the rope bridge as bullets screamed through the night. Nathaniel and his men laid down cover fire, carving a narrow path through the chaos. Every step felt like a mile, every breath a battle. Clara's legs burned, her lungs seared, but she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. The bridge loomed ahead, swaying fragile, their only hope. But as Clara and Kiera reached the edge, a dark figure stepped from the shadows, blocking the entrance. Not Hale, someone worse. A woman in black armor, tall and cold, her face half hidden by a mask. Her voice was sharp, metallic. "Going somewhere?" Clara froze, her blood turning to ice. The path to freedom was blocked. The rope bridge swayed lightly in the night air, the wooden planks creaking as though whispering a warning. Clara froze at its entrance. Kiera pressed against her side, both of them staring up at the dark figure blocking their only path to freedom. The woman stood tall, clad in black tactical armor that gleamed faintly in the moonlight. A half-mask obscured the lower part of her face, but her eyes were sharp, cold, and merciless. She held no rifle, just two sleek black blades strapped across her back. Clara's breath caught. The woman radiated something Hale's soldiers didn't. Control, precision, lethality. "Going somewhere?" the woman asked, her voice smooth yet metallic, as though honed by years of disdain. Behind Clara, gunfire cracked through the forest. Nathaniel and his men held the line, trading bullets with Hale's army. They hadn't seen what awaited Clara at the bridge. Clara tightened her grip on Kiera's hand, her voice trembling. "Please, just let us pass." The woman tilted her head, slightly amused. "Oh, I'll let you pass. After the girl is mine." Her gaze flicked to Kiera, sharp and hungry. Clara's stomach dropped. Kiera buried her face in her grandmother's blouse, whispering, "Grandma, I'm scared." Clara swallowed hard, her fear morphing into fury. She planted her body squarely between Kiera and the woman. "You're not touching her." For the first time, the woman chuckled. The sound was dark, hollow. "You've got fire, but fire without skill only burns itself out." She reached up, unfastening her mask, revealing her face at last. High cheekbones, piercing gray eyes, a scar cutting down her jawline. Her lips curled into a cruel smile. Nathaniel's voice rang out behind them. "Celine!" Clara glanced back, startled. Nathaniel's eyes were locked on the woman, recognition flashing in them. His voice carried a weight she had never heard before. "You shouldn't be here," he growled. Celine smirked, her gaze never leaving Clara and Kiera. "Oh, but I should. Hale made me his blade, and tonight that blade cuts deepest." Clara's chest tightened. Whoever this woman was, she wasn't just another soldier. She was personal. Nathaniel's voice hardened. "Clara, keep moving. Don't engage her." But Celine took a step forward, her presence swallowing the narrow space at the bridge. "No one leaves until I have the girl." The firefight behind them intensified, bullets sparking off rocks, shouts echoing in the darkness. Kane's voice carried to the chaos. "Boss, we're being flanked." Nathaniel's answer was lost in the roar of gunfire. Clara turned back to Celine, her heart pounding. She had no training, no blades, no armor. All she had was her trembling hands and the small pistol Nathaniel had forced on her. Celine seemed to read her thoughts. "Do you even know how to use that toy?" she mocked. "You'll hesitate. You'll shake. And when you do, I'll take her." Clara's blood boiled, her fear twisting into a brittle defiance. She raised the pistol with both hands, her voice shaking but loud. "Try me." Celine's smirk widened. "Very well." In one fluid motion, Celine drew a blade, its edge catching the faint moonlight. She moved with terrifying grace, every step measured, precise. Clara's breath came fast, shallow. Kiera clung to her side, whimpering, "Don't let her, Grandma. Please don't let her." Clara whispered fiercely, "I won't, baby. I won't." She steadied her trembling hands, aiming the pistol squarely at Celine's chest. Celine paused, tilting her head, her smile unnervingly calm. "Do it, then. Pull the trigger. Let's see if a grandmother has what it takes." Clara's finger hovered over the trigger, sweat slicking her palms. She remembered the man in the bunker, the recoil, the shock of watching someone fall because of her. Could she do it again? Could she kill to save Kiera? "Grandma," Kiera whispered, "you have to." Clara's hand stopped trembling. Her fear crystallized into resolve. She steadied her breath, whispering back, "For you, baby, for you." She pulled the trigger. The pistol cracked. Celine twisted at the last instant, the bullet grazing her shoulder instead of piercing her chest. She staggered back, the impact surprising her, but her eyes burned hotter now, alive with fury. "You'll regret that," Celine hissed. She lunged. Clara screamed, shoving Kiera behind her as Celine closed the distance with terrifying speed. The blade flashed, slicing the air where Clara had stood a heartbeat earlier. Clara stumbled back, firing again. The shot went wide, splintering wood from the bridge's railing. Celine advanced relentlessly, her movements fluid, deadly. Each swing of her blade forced Clara back, closer and closer to the edge of the cliffside. Clara's heel slipped on loose gravel. Her heart lurched as she flailed for balance, nearly tumbling into the river below. Kiera cried out, "Grandma!" Clara steadied herself, lifting the pistol again, her voice breaking but fierce. "I'm not letting you take her." Celine's eyes narrowed. "Then you'll both die here." Behind them, Nathaniel finally broke free from the firefight, sprinting toward the bridge. Kane and Victor covered him, their gunfire keeping Hale soldiers at bay. "Clara!" Nathaniel shouted. "Hold on." Celine's eyes flicked toward him briefly, and in that instant Clara fired again. The bullet struck Celine's thigh, sending her staggering. Clara seized the chance. She grabbed Kiera's hand, yanking her toward the bridge. "Run, baby, run." They dashed onto the swaying planks, the rope bridge creaking dangerously beneath their weight. Celine snarled, clutching her bleeding leg, but she didn't stop. She limped after them, blade flashing in the moonlight. Clara's breath came in ragged gasps. The bridge swayed wildly, each step a fight for balance. Kiera clutched the ropes, her small body trembling. Halfway across, the wood beneath Clara's foot splintered, the plank snapping in two. She gasped, stumbling, nearly pitching into the black river below. "Grandma!" Kiera screamed. Clara caught herself, pulling up onto solid wood again. Her heart pounded, but she forced herself forward. "Keep going, baby. Don't stop." Celine was closing in, her limp barely slowing her. Her blade gleamed as she raised it high. Clara spun, firing one last desperate shot. The gun clicked empty. Her heart dropped. Celine smiled coldly. Out of bullets. She lunged, her blade sweeping low. Clara barely dodged, the steel kissing the fabric of her blouse. The bridge shook violently, rope straining. Clara grabbed Kiera, shielding her, bracing for the end. Then, in a blur, Celine's hand shot out, seizing Kiera by the arm. The girl screamed, yanked off her feet. "Grandma!" Clara's world shattered. She lunged, grabbing Kiera's other arm, pulling with everything she had. Celine pulled back just as fiercely, her voice cold and triumphant. "The girl is mine." The bridge swayed, the ropes groaning under the struggle. Clara's heart thundered. She was caught in a deadly tug-of-war, her granddaughter's small body the rope, and in that moment, with the river roaring below and Hale's men closing behind, Clara realized she might have to make the most terrifying choice of her life. The rope bridge screamed under the strain, its ropes groaning, its planks splitting as a battle of wills unfolded above the roaring river. Clara's arms burned as she clutched Kiera's wrist with every ounce of strength left in her. Across from her, Celine's grip was iron, her scarred face twisted in cold triumph. The little girl's terrified screams pierced the night. "Grandma, don't let go." Clara's heart cracked, but her voice rang firm through the chaos. "I've got you, baby. I swear I won't let you go." The bridge rocked violently as gunfire cracked from the cliff. Nathaniel's voice cut through the noise. "Clara, hold her. I'm coming." But Celine's eyes glimmered with ruthless amusement. "You're strong, old woman, but strength fails. And when it does, she's mine." Clara's jaw clenched. Sweat rolled down her temples, her muscles trembling, but she roared back with a force she didn't know she had. "Not while I'm alive." The tugging match stretched into a nightmare rhythm. Clara pulling, Celine pulling harder. Kiera's small body swung dangerously between them, her sobs carried away by the rushing wind. A plank cracked beneath Clara's foot, snapping loose. She stumbled, nearly losing her footing, but clung tighter to the ropes with her free hand. Her arms screamed in pain. Her chest heaved with every breath. Celine leaned closer, her voice low, venomous. "You know what Nathaniel never told you? He and I were partners once. Before he grew soft. Before he forgot what real power meant." Clara's eyes widened, her grip faltering for a fraction of a second. Celine smirked. "He left me to die, and Hale picked me up, fed me, sharpened me, made me more than him. And now, I'll carve his heart out by taking the girl he swore to protect." Clara's blood went cold. Nathaniel, once aligned with his killer? "Grandma!" Kiera wailed, kicking her legs wildly. The bridge swayed harder, one of the ropes unraveling under the strain. Nathaniel sprinted onto the planks, his boots pounding, his face a storm of fury. "Celine!" he roared. "Let her go, or I swear I'll end you myself." Celine's laughter rang sharp and cruel. "Come closer, Nathaniel. Watch me snap her spine before your eyes." She jerked Kiera downward, and the child shrieked. Clara's hands nearly slipped. Her heart hammered as panic surged. "No!" Clara screamed. She anchored her foot against the side plank, summoning every ounce of strength buried in her body. "You won't take her from me." The bridge lurched violently as a bullet from the cliff struck one of the supporting ropes. Fibers tore, snapping strands curling into the air. The entire structure sagged, plunging several feet lower. Clara's stomach dropped as she clung to Kiera, the river's foaming black water yawning beneath them. Nathaniel lunged, slamming his weight into the ropes to steady himself. He aimed his rifle at Celine, his voice like thunder. "Last warning." Celine's smile sharpened. "Shoot me and she falls with me." Clara's chest heaved, sweat blinding her eyes. Her body trembled with exhaustion, but she refused to let go. Kiera's hand felt so small, so fragile, yet Clara's grip locked like steel. Her voice broke with desperation, raw but unyielding. "Kiera, listen to me. Don't be afraid. I've got you. I'll never let go." Kiera sobbed, her wide eyes darting between her grandmother and the woman dragging her toward the abyss. Celine hissed, pulling harder. "Say goodbye, child." But Clara's fury exploded. She screamed from deep within her soul, her body igniting with strength she didn't know existed. With a final, primal pull, she yanked Kiera toward her chest. The force ran Celine forward, off balance. Her blade clattered against the wooden planks. For the first time, Celine stumbled. Nathaniel seized a chance. He fired. The bullet tore through Celine's shoulder. She cried out, her grip faltering. Kiera slipped free, falling into Clara's arms. Clara collapsed onto the bridge, wrapping the girl in a desperate embrace, tears soaking her cheeks. "I've got you, baby. I've got you." Celine staggered, clutching her bleeding shoulder, her eyes blazing with hatred. She didn't retreat. She lunged again, her blade flashing toward Clara's back. "Clara!" Nathaniel shouted. At the last instant, Nathaniel threw himself forward, intercepting the strike. Steel tore into his arm, blood splattering across the planks. He grunted, wrenching the blade aside, then slammed Celine with the butt of his rifle. She stumbled back, her boots skidding against the splintering wood. The bridge shuddered violently. Another supporting rope snapped free with a deafening twang. The structure sagged lower, planks splintering, chunks would tumbling into the river below. "Move!" Nathaniel bellowed. Clara staggered to her feet, clutching Kiera tightly. They scrambled toward the far side of the bridge as Celine, wounded but relentless, gave chase. The last remaining rope strained, fibers snapping one by one. With a final groan, the bridge gave way. The world tilted. The planks fell into the void, ropes whipping loose. Clara screamed as the ground vanished beneath her. She clutched Kiera, the air tearing past them as they plummeted toward the raging river below. Cold water swallowed them whole. Clara's lungs seized, icy shock ripping through her chest. She clung to Kiera, kicking wildly, fighting against the river's brutal current. The girl thrashed, choking, terrified. Clara forced her upward, breaking the surface with a gasp. "Hold on, baby. Hold on to me." The river roared, dragging them downstream, battering them against jagged rocks. Clara's body screamed in pain, her grip slipping. But she locked Kiera against her chest, refusing to release her. Above, Nathaniel dangled from a single rope still tied to the cliff, his arm bleeding, his body swinging violently. Celine clung to another rope, her teeth bared in a snarl. Their eyes locked across the gap. Her voice was a promise, cold and certain. This isn't over. Then the river swept Clara and Kiera around a bend, and Celine vanished from sight. Clara's strength faltered as the current dragged them farther. Her lungs burned, her vision blurred. Kiera clung to her desperately, sobbing. "Grandma, I can't." "Yes, you can." Clara rasped. "Kick, baby, kick with me." Together, they fought, barely keeping their heads above water. Clara's mind raced, searching for any break in the river's fury. Finally, she spotted a cluster of roots jutting from a bank. Summoning the last of her strength, she paddled, pushing Kiera ahead of her. "Grab it." Kiera's small hands latched onto the roots. Clara shoved her upward, then clawed at the bank herself. Her nails tore, her muscles screamed, but she heaved them both onto solid ground. They collapsed, coughing, choking, their bodies trembling violently. Clara pulled Kiera close, kissing her soaked hair. "You're safe. You're safe with me." But even as she said it, she knew the truth. Celine was still alive. Hale's men were still out there. And Nathaniel, wounded, bleeding, was still somewhere above the river. Clara closed her eyes, her arms tightening around Kiera. The battle wasn't over. It was only beginning. And as the night pressed down around them, she realized something with bone-deep clarity. No matter what Hale unleashed, no matter what Celine promised, she would not stop. Not until Kiera was free. Not until Nathaniel was safe. Even if it cost her everything. The night air was thick with mist as Clara clung to Kiera on the riverbank. Their bodies trembled from exhaustion, their soaked clothes clinging to their skin. Clara's lungs still burned from the river's icy grip, but she forced herself upright. She stroked Kiera's wet hair back, whispering through cracked lips, "We made it, baby. We're alive." Kiera whimpered, curling into her grandmother's arms. "Grandma, I'm scared." Clara kissed her forehead, ignoring her own trembling hands. "I know, sweetheart, but fear doesn't mean we stop. It means we hold on tighter." The roar of the river faded behind them as Clara scanned the dense forest. The moonlight flickered through the trees, casting long, menacing shadows. Somewhere out there, Hale's men were regrouping. Somewhere above, Nathaniel was either alive or gone. Clara closed her eyes, forcing back the despair that threatened to drown her. She couldn't afford it. Not now. "Come on," she whispered, lifting Kiera to her feet. "We have to move." Far above the river, Nathaniel dangled from a fraying rope. His wounded arm screamed with every movement, blood dripping into the darkness below. The bridge had collapsed, taking Clara and Kiera into the torrent, but he refused to believe they were gone. With a growl of pain, he hauled himself upward, inch by inch, until his free hand caught the jagged edge of the cliff. He pulled himself over, collapsing onto the ground, chest heaving. For a moment, he lay there, staring at the stars above, his vision blurred. Then he rolled onto his knees, forcing his battered body upright. "Clara," he muttered, his voice ragged. "Hold on. I'm coming." But he wasn't alone. A low voice drifted through the shadows. "Still alive. Impressive, Nathaniel. You always were too stubborn to die properly." Celine emerged from the tree-line, her arm bandaged crudely, her eyes alight with rage. Despite her wounds, she carried herself with lethal grace, her blade gleaming in the moonlight. "You should have stayed down," she hissed. "But now, I'll finish this myself." Nathaniel raised his rifle, his bloodied fingers tightening on the grip. His voice was cold steel. "You'll never touch them again." Clara and Kiara stumbled deeper into the forest. Every branch seemed to whisper danger, every shadow a lurking enemy. Clara's body ached, but she kept moving, her arms wrapped protectively around the child. At last, they found a small clearing where the moonlight spilled onto the ground. Clara eased Kiara down, letting her rest on the damp grass. The little girl's chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. Clara crouched beside her, brushing her cheek. "Rest, baby, just for a moment." Her own eyes burned with exhaustion, but her instincts kept her alert. Somewhere in the distance, faint gunfire echoed. Nathaniel's battle. Clara's heart clenched. She whispered into the night, "Please, God, don't take him from us." On the cliff, Celine lunged. Nathaniel dodged, pain screaming through his wounded arm, but he managed to parry her strike with the barrel of his rifle. Sparks flew as steel met steel. She pressed forward, her voice a hiss of venom. "You betrayed me. You left me to die. And now, I'll take everything you care about. The girl, the grandmother, and when you're broken, I'll carve your name into the dirt." Nathaniel's eyes burned with fury. "You made your choice, Celine. Don't pretend Hale saved you. He chained you. And now you're nothing but his weapon." Her face twisted with rage. She slashed again, faster, harder, her movements a storm of violence. Nathaniel fought back, each strike rattling through his battered body. At last he caught her wrist, twisting hard. Her blade clattered to the ground. With a roar, he shoved her back, his boots slamming into her chest. She stumbled to the cliff's edge, arms flailing. For one frozen heartbeat, she teetered over the void, but she caught herself, snarling, her eyes blazing. "This isn't over, Nathaniel." She retreated into the shadows, vanishing into the night. Nathaniel sagged, his body trembling, but relief surged through him. He had no time to celebrate. He staggered toward the path leading down to the river, determined to find Clara and Kiara. In the clearing, Clara stiffened as the snap of a branch echoed nearby. She drew the pistol Nathaniel had given her, her hands shaking. From the darkness, several armed men stepped into the moonlight. Hale soldiers. Their rifles gleamed, their faces hidden behind visors. Clara shoved Kiara behind her, raising the gun. Her voice shook but held firm. "Stay back." The men spread out, circling them. One laughed coldly. "Orders are clear. Take the girl." Clara's heart pounded. Her finger hovered over the trigger. "You'll have to kill me first." The soldier tilted his head. "Gladly." He raised his rifle, and a shot rang out. The man dropped, a bullet tearing through his visor. The other spun, firing blindly into the trees. Nathaniel burst into the clearing, his rifle blazing. "Clara, get down!" She dropped, shielding Kiara as gunfire tore through the night. Nathaniel moved like a storm, each shot precise, each movement deliberate. One by one, the soldiers fell. At last, silence returned, broken only by Kiara's sobs. Nathaniel lowered his weapon, chest heaving, blood soaking his sleeve. His eyes found Clara's, fierce and burning. "Are you hurt?" Clara shook her head, clutching Kiara close. "We're alive, thanks to you." But before relief could settle, slow clapping echoed from the trees. Hale himself stepped into the clearing. Tall, broad-shouldered, his tailored coat unblemished despite the chaos, his eyes cold and calculating. He smiled faintly, as if the violence had been nothing more than entertainment. "Well done, Nathaniel," he drawled. "You've kept the old woman and the child alive longer than I expected. But this ends tonight." Nathaniel raised his rifle, but Hale shook his head. "No need. You can't kill me, and you know it. My reach goes further than this forest, further than this country. Kill me here, and my empire swallows you whole." Clara's voice cut through the tension, trembling but defiant. "You won't take her. I don't care how powerful you think you are. You'll never have my granddaughter." Hale's gaze flicked to her, cold amusement in his eyes. Courageous, but pointless. He lifted a hand. More soldiers emerged from the shadows, their rifles raised. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. He was outnumbered, outgunned. His body shook with exhaustion, but his eyes never wavered. Clara gripped his arm, her voice urgent. "We can't win this fight." Nathaniel glanced at her, then at Kiera's terrified face. Slowly, a plan formed in his mind. He leaned close, whispering, "When I give a signal, take her and run. Don't look back." Clara's eyes widened. "Nathaniel." "Trust me." Hale raised his hand to order the capture. Nathaniel fired first. Chaos erupted. Gunfire lit the clearing. Clara scooped Kiera into her arms, sprinting into the trees as Nathaniel's voice roared behind her. "Run!" She didn't look back. Minutes stretched like eternity as Clara ran, Kiera clinging to her neck. Branches whipped her face, roots clawed at her feet, but she pushed forward, driven by raw desperation. Finally, the forest broke open onto a dirt road. Headlights appeared in the distance, vehicles approaching fast. Clara froze, heart pounding. Were they allies or enemies? The trucks screeched to a halt. Armed men jumped down, but these wore different insignias. A commanding voice barked, "Stand down. Federal Task Force. Drop your weapon." Clara's knees buckled with relief. Agents swarmed into the forest, their rifles raised. Gunfire flared again as they clashed with Hale's men. Clara collapsed to the ground, Kiera sobbing into her chest. Moments later, Nathaniel stumbled from the trees, bloodied but alive. His eyes met Clara's, and for the first time, a flicker of peace crossed his face. Hale, seeing the tide turn, slipped into the shadows, vanishing before the agents could capture him. Celine was nowhere to be found. The nightmare wasn't entirely over. But for Clara, Kiera, and Nathaniel, it was survival. It was hope. Hours later, as dawn broke, Clara sat on the steps of an ambulance, Kiera sleeping in her arms. Nathaniel stood nearby, his arm bandaged, his eyes weary but sharp. Clara looked at him, her voice soft. "Why?" asked Nathaniel. "Why did you risk everything for two people you didn't even know?" Nathaniel's gaze lingered on Kiera's peaceful face. Then he met Clara's eyes, his voice quiet. "Because sometimes the smallest lives are the ones worth saving the most." Clara's throat tightened, but she smiled faintly. "Then maybe you're not the man Hale thinks you are." Nathaniel didn't answer. His gaze drifted to the horizon, where the sun rose slowly, painting the sky gold. For now, they had survived. But in the depths of the forest, shadows still lingered. Hale still lived. Celine still plotted. And somewhere in Clara's heart, she knew their story wasn't finished. Not yet. Thank you for watching this story. If it moved you, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Your voice matters. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss more powerful stories. Remember, every story has a lesson, and every lesson can change a life.